I would say you need to eliminate should from your vocabulary. There's nothing you should do. You got to get that out of your head. If there's someone struggling with that perspective, like, you need to understand that like you are great simply by existing, by being a good human being. That's it. That's all anyone needs of you. Everything else, do because it lights a fire in your soul and it makes you happy and it makes the people around you better for it. But all anyone actually needs of you is just to be a good person.
Mental health champions, I have a treat for you. We're bringing on the host of Sunday Reset with Will and Friends, a podcast where real conversations meet emotional honesty. And we were talking behind the scenes about the taboo, I guess, with men and mental health and speaking about it. If there's any loyal early listeners here today, you remember my podcast where I used to do a spotlight story of someone in the spotlight who also struggled, and one that sticks out for this conversation is Kevin Love, where he grew up and they said mask your emotions, mask your feelings, and now conversations like this are trying to put that in the rear view. But a little preview to today. After experiencing a tragic loss of a partner and battling some of his own personal demons, Will has grown to care deeply about having open and frank conversations around mental health, hence the podcast launch, and he believes in a common sense approach to tackling your demons, which we'll learn all about today, and the importance of moving forward one step at a time. I love that, Will, and thank you for making time to join us after work here on a mental health break.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here, and I can't wait for the conversation.
It's going to be a great conversation, everyone, so buckle up, and thank you again for tuning in here to a mental health break. Remember to subscribe to stay current with our mental health advocates, and we're brought to you today by Coming Alive podcastproduction.com. I gave a bit of a teaser into some of the stories will dive in today, but I'd like to, Will, put the ball in your court. Please share your mental health journey from wherever you feel comfortable.
Well, that's the interesting part, is that where I think the journey truly begins and where it actually began are two very different things. So I'll share a little bit about that with you privately. But for me, I look at the journey as this. When I was born with a condition called hydrocephalus. When the cerebral spinal fluid that surrounds your brain, your body brings it in, drains it out naturally, mine doesn't. So that, over the course of my life, forced me to have 6 brain surgeries, and I'm going to have more. It's a matter of when, not if. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of that condition. We have something that cures it temporarily, but it's a mechanical device. It will break. And so growing up with that, it's just one of those things you realize that, oh, I have this thing that's going to be a ticking time bomb at all times. And as I was in high school and dealing with that, it really, frankly, messed with my self-worth. I felt like a burden to everyone around me, and I had not really processed that information. And so then I carried that with me into, my late teens, early 20s, to a point where I was, in full-time work and really excited about going that. And I wasn't living up to my potential. I wasn't, at least the way I saw it, because I had to be exceptional for anyone to love me.
Right.
So that's how I felt. Whether that anyone put that on me is up for debate, but to me, that's how I felt always, because that's what I believed in. I had to be in order to be worth anyone's time. And so battling depression, battling suicidal thoughts, and then I moved back home with my parents because, thank God, my dad showed up one day and unexpected. Him and my mom were worried about me. And so then he showed up one day. I moved back in with them. Didn't really deal with it, though. Even with that, they tried to get me to go to therapy. I just didn't take it seriously. That's on me. But I got back to life. I got back to working, living, doing my thing, met a woman, and was really excited about the relationship. And then she died unexpectedly. And I want to be clear, it was not by her own hand. It was natural causes, but that forced me to have to care. So that's when you ask where it starts. For me, that's where the catalyst was, but there were so many things that led up to it. And that's what I uncovered in therapy. And that's what I learned so much about myself. And then my mission moving forward years later was, why don't we talk about these things? So that's been my root cause of everything I've done, from blogging to a podcast to a book. And I've got a guided journal. All these things have all stemmed from one simple promise of if I can put my story out there, maybe somebody else can, and maybe they can feel less alone in their struggle.
I absolutely love that message. Thank you for sharing that. Everyone, you are not alone. And you mentioned something there that may relate to some people here, and maybe we can guide them. You didn't take therapy serious. What were you going into it doing, and what should have you done?
I think for me, it was like a misconception of what therapy was supposed to be, because when you think about a conventional doctor's visit, you walk in and you're like, hey, I've got a sore throat. Here are the symptoms. Fix me. And it's not that simple. And we think it is, and it's just not. So I think going into it. And then the other thing too is like, I think when it comes to matters of the mind, when it is like something truly medical, we accept the disconnect of, hey, I'm not a doctor. That's their area of expertise. Like they can help me with this. But when we think about our own mind, I think there's a general thought process that people have going into it. It's like, well, I'm capable of fixing this. I'm capable of understanding what's wrong. And so we give a false sense of confidence to that. So like you walk into the room, it's like, oh, what can you tell me about me that I don't already know? And I was definitely one of those people.
Well, thank you for sharing that, everyone. Therapy is not for everyone, but it is one tool you can have in your tool chest. And Will, you know, what works for some doesn't work for everyone. We all have to do things each day and over the long term to stay mentally healthy. What are some things that you do to take care of your mental health?
Eventually, I did take therapy seriously. That was a huge part of it for me. But beyond that, writing was a huge part of my journey. In fact, it was in therapy that my therapist said, hey, you're coming to these sessions and you seem to not really know what to say. I think the problem is you're on the spot and it's hard to kind of collect your thoughts in that moment. Yeah, why not in between sessions? Why don't you write a letter to your past self or write a letter to Allison? That was her name, my girlfriend that died. Write a letter to any of these things to get something going for you. And perhaps that will help you collect your thoughts in a way that you can come here constructive. So that's where like my thought process, and then that eventually led to me putting those stories out there for the rest of the world.
You just teased it there, writing. You said in the beginning you got an awesome book and an awesome journal. Let's talk about some of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is called One Step Forward, Ideally in the Right Direction. And the way I describe it to people is it's half memoir, half self-help. So while I would never, ever want to take anything away from an author who writes a book that says, like, here are your 10 steps to enlightenment or anything like that, those books just didn't resonate with me. It didn't sit with me in that way where I was like, you know what I'm going to benefit from is hearing someone who's actually been through something that I can relate to and how did they come out the other side. And so that's what I want. I've always been a person that's like, if I don't like what I see as my options, then I'm going to create the option. So I put it out there. I started writing it. And my favorite piece of feedback that I've gotten about it is anybody who knows me personally says, it sounds like you. It sounds like you. Like if you listen to it, it's like you can hear my voice. And that's exactly what I wanted.
I love it. And I write the same way. If my books, if someone knows me, they'll be able, especially Left for Dead, my first book, where they'll be able to hear my voice kind of going in. I think that's an enjoyable writing style because we can, again, resonate with the listeners, or if they're reading, the readers. You have a second book, though, the journal. Let's talk about why you created that first.
Yeah. So as soon as the book comes out, everyone's like, oh, you're going to write another one? And I'm like, what's funny about that? To me, I was like, I really want something tangible, something tactical that someone who is struggling, great, they read my book, that's great, they resonated, and they feel less alone, but like, what are they going to do? And I am not a therapist. My role in this conversation has always been a place where I want people to relate to me, and I want to be the bridge between a person that's struggling and a person that can help from a clinical standpoint. Nonetheless, I still think my lived experience can help people. So then I was like, I loved writing. Writing was such a huge part of this, but I get it. I'm someone who can sit down and just start writing and it comes naturally to me, but other people need maybe a little bit of guidance, a little bit of something else, right? So the thought crossed my mind, what if I created a guided journal where it's got writing prompts? I can break down different areas such as, self-discovery or hope, or grief. You can break these areas down and ask specific questions to help someone kind of think about where to start. And then they start writing and maybe they explore themselves a little better, or maybe they can apply that to their life.
I love that. Did you find that the writing process was therapeutic in any way?
Oh, that's I mean, the writing has been so therapeutic. Like that's the best part. Like even back when I was blogging, the most consistent thing I did for so long, you know, whether anyone saw it or not didn't really matter.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm doing this because it's good for my soul and I feel good about it. And if one person can find some value in this, then it was all worth it. And so to me, it's been wonderful to see. It's obviously like grown and evolved, and now I make different types of content and all that. But the root cause has always been the same for me, which is let's put my stuff out there. Let's put myself and my story out there, make other people feel less alone, and let's build a community.
Oh, Phil, thank you so much for doing that. Everyone, be sure to stick around to the end of the show. We'll tell you where to find those two amazing mental health books, but he's also got a mental health podcast. I talked about it earlier. That's kind of how we got connected through social media, seeing his awesome posts, his content. I'm not sure exactly how we found each other, but again, be sure to add this to your podcast list. Subscribe now. Sunday Reset with Will and Friends, a podcast where real conversations meet emotional honesty. Let's talk about this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So the podcast is funny. So after book number one is like, I'm in the editing stage at this point and I'm self published. So to me, it's like, okay, I got to promote this thing. And so I thought, what do publishers do? What do they all do? Oh, they just get their people on podcasts and get them talking, get them on talk shows. And so I just started like cold outreaching to podcasts. And thankfully there was a handful of people that, took pity on me, and let me on before I really had any sort of audience or anything. And then, as I did more of these, I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is cool. And people kept saying all along, like, why don't you have your own podcast? And I was like, everyone's got one. It seems silly for me to do it. I don't think I can offer anything different to the conversation. And then the thought crossed my mind, well, what if I do an Instagram live instead? I'll do an Instagram live series, and that way, like that's my edge. It's something that's truly live, organic that way. Thankfully, a mentor of mine kind of pulled me aside and said, look, man, I don't know if you know this. People don't watch stuff live anymore. They just don't. We just don't consume things that way. And so you're doing yourself a disservice because the sound quality is not as good on Instagram Live. And there's probably guests you're losing out on because they don't want to do it truly live. They want the option to cut something out if need be. It was like, okay, but I can still keep the essence of it there. I really try to limit the editing to just overall sound quality. Everything else, unless someone begs me to cut something because they said something they don't feel strongly about, I'm always going to respect their privacy in that way. But otherwise, I really try to keep it as ever flowing as possible. And it's truly an open, honest conversation. So those are my guests that I have, and we do hour long conversations. But then I also have a good friend of mine, Rachel Jameson. Shout out to her, Back to Basics Therapy. She comes on a regular basis. We do 30-minute sessions covering specific mental health topics and very actionable plans that we can go about exchanging our life. And then I do solo episodes myself where I talk about things that matter to me. And those are typically anywhere from 18 to 20 minutes.
I love it. Everyone, he mentioned at first there's a lot of podcasts, but let me break it down for you. I think only 10% have done 10 episodes or more. And that was when I wrote my book, I Want to Start a Podcast. So it may have changed because it does take a little dedication, a little work, but it's got to be something you're passionate about. And that's exactly what he's doing. His goal here, making a difference on just so many levels. How did you meet Rachel that comes on your show a lot? Did you become friends years ago, or was she your therapist?
No, so definitely one disclaimer. She has not ever been my therapist. No, she and I met through the social media world. That was the funny part. It's like, as I'm starting to make this content, she and I started engaging with each other's stuff because we both kind of see the world very similarly. But she has a clinical background. She is a licensed therapist as well as coach, and she has a substance abuse counseling background as well too. And that was actually our first one-on-one session. We talked about alcohol use and mental health, because she is someone that, while is a licensed substance abuse counselor, still enjoys alcohol. How do you manage that? How do you navigate those waters? And it was a really fun conversation to have about that. And so, yeah, she's just been a really great friend, and watching her grow and evolve has been really fun to see.
All right. Well, big shout out to her and all the great work you two are doing together. As you continue to grow your mental health advocacy, you're expanding in new ways, but your topics are just becoming deeper because you have all these people you're impacting. You shared you struggled with depression. If there's someone listening on today who is struggling with depression and they're just realizing what they're going through and they don't know how to navigate, what can you offer?
My first thing I would want to say to them, before anything else is I think more often than not, the reason you found yourself in this place is because you believe that a series of bad decisions on your part has made you invaluable. You're not valuable to society. And I'm here to tell you to never be a prisoner of your past. It was just a lesson. It's not a life sentence. You don't have to carry this forever. I didn't write that quote, but it's my favorite quote today. One of these days, I'll get it tattooed on my body because it's such an important lesson that we all need to carry with ourselves is understanding that, like, yes, you made mistakes. Yes, you've done things that you're not proud of. Yes, it seems dark right now, but I assure you, there's nobody in your life that would rather read your eulogy than hear what you're going through. And it may feel like you're a burden, but I assure you, you're not. And
I
if they won't
absolutely,
listen, I will.
yes. And that's something that he's continuing to do, and not just speaking outside his podcast, but also helping people who tune into his podcast. So it's very admirable, everyone. I'm always open for you too. We're going to have Will's contact information before you know it. But you also mentioned that now you've moved past suicidal ideations. If someone's in that shoes, how can you help them?
First off, I would actually want to challenge the conversation that we all have here because we still have this large group of people who look at people who have died by suicide and we see them as selfish and all these things. And I'm not trying to dismiss or invalidate their feelings, but let me tell you this. Imagine the worst pain that you have ever felt in your entire life. Imagine what possible pain is out there for you. I'm talking physical pain. I'm talking maybe you have terminal cancer. Maybe you've been hit by a bus. I don't know what the answer is, but whatever you can imagine the worst case scenarios, imagine that. Now, can you tell me with 100% certainty that in that moment, you might not think it's better off if you just died? Because I'm willing to bet in that amount of pain, we all can get there. If you can empathize with that, then you can empathize with the person who feels that the world is better off without them because they are at a point of pain, albeit mental, but nonetheless still real for them. And that is so important for us to understand is they feel that they would be better off dead than feeling what they're feeling. And so first I would change the societal perception and then talking to the individual who's going through it. Yes, I understand. It feels like there's this big cloud over you and I wish I could take it away from you, but I can't. But here's what I do know. Sometimes the only way out is through. And it's just knowing that someone's there to listen. And so that's to me is like what I would want to do is like, hey, I'm going to listen to you so you can get through this. I wouldn't even want to say anything more than just saying I'm here and I see you and I love you and I'm willing to listen.
And I think having someone to tell you that would be big. Do you feel having a support circle or someone to lean on for support is beneficial for our mental health?
Absolutely. But I would say the big part of that too is like it's having genuine people, right? You can have a lot of surface level friends, right? Yeah, we throw out the phrase ride or die a little too liberally these days. But is someone truly ride or die? Are they actually going to show up when you really need them? Is your friend that person you can come to and have that real and honest conversation? Because I tell you what, I've been the guy who's got 1,000 acquaintances, but yeah, as I get older, I just find way more value in having a close circle of people that I know I can call at 2 in the morning and say, hey, I need your help.
And you said that beautifully. As we get older, we get busier, but the people who are meant to be in your life will stick in there. And like a regular relationship, friendships are relationships that also require work and they require a two-way street. And I think it's important to be that person where if your friends need you, they know that you'll go ahead and pick up the phone. We've talked about so many great things, everyone. Remember, he's got 2 books, a podcast. We talked about a lot of advice, but I always like to end the advice with a different piece of advice. You've really given it all to us today, Will. If there's someone who's just struggling, tuning in today, just going through life, not doing what they expect themselves to do, like you said, things aren't working out, what piece of advice can you offer them here before we go ahead and get your contact info, your books, and your podcast links?
Absolutely. I would say you need to eliminate should from your vocabulary. There's nothing you should do. You got to get that out of your head. If there's someone struggling with that perspective, like, you need to understand that like you are great simply by existing, by being a good human being. That's it. That's all anyone needs of you. Everything else, do because it lights a fire in your soul and it makes you happy and it makes the people around you better for it. But all anyone actually needs of you is just to be a good person.
Oh, wow. Everyone, please take that piece of advice and remember you are not alone. We brought our man Will here today. Thank you so much for joining us here on a mental health break. Everyone, remember to subscribe to stay current with our mental health champions. But also, we have to know where to find these books, the podcast, of course, and also to learn more about you as you do your vlogs and blogs and all great mental health content.
So, social media wise, across the board, Mental Health with Will is the easy way to find me across TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. As far as the books are concerned, they're both available on Amazon. So, the Sunday Reset Journal and it's writing prompts for your inner healing. That's on Amazon. And then One Step Forward, Ideally in the Right Direction is my book. And my podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as well as YouTube. Sunday Reset with Will and Friends.
Everyone, be sure to subscribe there, check out his books, and be sure to add him to your network in this mental health community. He is here to let you know one more time that you are not alone. My name is Vincent A. Lancy, and we're brought to you today by ComingAlivePodcastProduction.com. We'll see you next week, everyone, to take a deep breath right here on a mental health break. Will, thank you again.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.